Last week, the government of Ontario released an ad throughout the United States that ran in prime time on major networks, showing quite clearly that US President Ronald Reagan was a huge fan of free and fair trade during his time as the president of the United States. This, of course, was a huge embarrassment to Donald Trump, who likes to engage in revisionism in something I call bullshit, where he actually shifts your attention to make you feel bullish. And we actually have a large American contingent of the population that actually believes whatever he says. And if he says Ronald Reagan was a big fan of tariffs, they believe it. Well, the Ford government showed very clearly that that's in fact not the case, that Ronald Reagan was actually very critical of tariffs. And Trump, in his usual manner, was petulant, and he insisted that Ford withdraw the ads. And of course, then told Prime Minister Carney that he was cutting off all trade negotiations effective immediately on the pretense of Canada having played dirty pool because they used an ad that was manipulated in some way. I think everyone knows the ad was not manipulated. It was just edited so that it would fit within the time allowed, but it was word for word verbatim taken from a speech given by Ronald Reagan in 1987. What really upset Donald Trump, of course, was that it laid bare that his negotiating tactics of saying this and then doing that and giving and taking and demanding concessions and so forth was not actually based on anything that was any kind of a moral high ground or precedent, but rather something that he was doing because it suited his own fancy. Where does that leave us as investors? Well, so first off, let's all recognize that the government of Canada and the province of Ontario are being elbows up. They are fighting back. They're running these ads. It was a $75 million ad buy, so not an insignificant amount of money, by going straight to American voters, by telling their story and helping them to understand exactly how harmful the tariff policies being promulgated by President Trump really are. We've got a budget coming down here in Canada in about a week on Tuesday, the 4th of November. And in it, everyone expects Prime Minister Carney to be talking more about energy, both traditional energy and clean energy, and infrastructure and resources. And I would expect all of them to be something that will be getting a major boost in the budget so that the elbows up narrative will continue so that Canada can build its own economy and show some strength and resilience. Make no mistake, when Donald Trump does this, he is an agent of chaos, and he will do it again and again and again. He has shown repeatedly that discussions with regard to tariffs can be on again and off again. He will take them off whenever it suits his fancy. He will come to the table to resume only when he thinks it's worth his while to do so. It's all designed to keep the other side off its guard. In Canada's case, we have a government that is not acting like the Neville Chamberlain of the 1930s, that is acting in some form of appeasement to a larger neighbor. The government of Canada, and by extension, the governments of the various provinces, notably Ontario, are standing up to Donald Trump. And they are not allowing him to have a narrative that will cause people to believe that what he is saying is in any way credible. They're calling him out. And that really annoys Donald Trump. Now, what does it mean for your portfolio? It's not entirely obvious. I would say that it seems fairly likely that these negotiations will continue to be sporadic, that there's no obvious end game, and that the industries that have been hit thus far, steel, aluminum, autos, so forth, will likely continue to feel the brunt of the tariffs for the foreseeable future, and that they will be going through some very hard times. And you need to be aware of that as a Canadian citizen and as an investor. Make no mistake, we're not out of the woods yet. But we are in a situation now where it's getting real. And I would say the government of Canada and the governments of the provinces are doing an excellent job of acquitting themselves by showing they're not going to take anything from Donald Trump. They're not going to take him at his word. They're happy to call him out. And we as Canadians should be happy for that. This has been Weekly Wealth Update, a Make Better Wealth Decisions podcast dedicated to explaining how current events impact your portfolio and the wealth decisions you make. Tune in every Monday for commentary on how the news of the week affects your portfolio and your thinking.